Thank you and welcome everybody to the inaugural council meeting for Lucan Biddulph for the term 2023 to 2027. 2 to 6. There we go. So the first order of business, I will call the meeting to order. And after I call the meeting to order, I will ask the mayor to rise and take the oath of office. That will be followed by the deputy mayor and then each of the councillors for Ward 1, 2, and 3. So meeting is now in session. So Madam Mayor, please rise. Please hold the Bible in your left hand. And please raise your right hand.
So I, Kathy Burkhart-Jessen, having been elected or appointed to the office of mayor in the municipality of the township of Lucan Biddulph, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty, King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if it had been made under oath. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Raise your right hands.
I, Dave Manders, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor in the municipality of the township of Lucan Biddulph, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration consciously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Yeah. Councillor.
I, Daniel Regan, have been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of the township of Lucan Biddulph, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and I will faithfully bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it has the same force and effect as if it was made under oath.
I, Jaden Hodgins, having been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of the township of Lucan Biddulph, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Congratulations.
I, Alex Westman, having been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of the township of Lucan Biddulph, do solemnly promise and declare I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received, nor will I receive, any payment or reward, promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And I will faithfully and truly bear allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it has the same force and effect as if made under oath. Right.
Congratulations.
Now, before I sit down, I just want to make a comment about this Bible. This is my great-grandfather's Bible, and he received it in 1879. He was sworn into office with the Township of Biddulph 5 times and served once as reeve in 1902. And every time he was sworn in on this Bible, and tonight we had the honor of Daniel Regan and myself being sworn in on the same one. So it's a great honor for my family. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, at this point, I hand the meeting back to you.
Well, I would like to acknowledge that I am an ally of Indigenous people. Lucan Biddulph is on the traditional territories of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississauga peoples. We acknowledge that as settlers, this is sacred land upon which we are privileged to live and work. We recognize the treaties made and broken. We are deeply grateful to have the opportunity to be in this place, and we acknowledge that this is just the beginning of a process we commit to a continued journey of listening, learning, and building relationships. I would also like to acknowledge that many of us tonight are wearing purple or purple ribbons, and we do this in support of the Shine a Light on Women Abuse campaign. We wear purple to stand in solidarity with women who have experienced any form of gender-based violence. I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I hope that you will agree with me that participating in the declaration of office is a privilege, which we should not take lightly. Having the trust of a community, whether through acclamation or an election, is an honor. Having worked with all of you before, I know that this oath does mean something to you, and it means something to me as well. I know that you take it seriously, and it is always front of mind when making decisions for the betterment of Lucan Biddulph. As much as when we look around the horseshoe, council has not changed, we must go into this new term of council with that mindset. This is a new term, and this is a new start. And while we will continue the work that we started last term, the plans that were laid and the plans that we laid out, tonight marks the opportunity for a fresh, clean start and a clean slate. I think it is safe to say that the last term of council offered us many challenges that we did not anticipate. The pandemic changed us in so many ways. We were separated from our community, not by choice, but by circumstance. We are keenly aware of those working on the front line and how the pressures of the pandemic continue to take its toll. It cannot be understated that these pressures affected our staff as well as all of us around the Horseshoe. The disruption that the pandemic caused will take a long time to recover from. As community leaders, we need to continue to support our residents and local businesses as we navigate through a post-pandemic environment. While the last 2 years provided challenge, I see the next 4 years equally as challenging. As we have seen economic factors change drastically in a year, the unknowns just seem to multiply. I believe as we continue the business of the municipality, we will be faced with supply chain issues, with cost increases at rates that we have not experienced before. We know the private sector has been challenged by a decline in workforce availability. All of these outside forces will affect us. Our budgets will be affected. Perhaps we'll have to look at our asset management plan and plan our projects differently. It will take the knowledge of our staff and the strength of this Horseshoe to act responsibly and responsively to the landscape in front of us. I had the opportunity to meet with many of our residents during the campaign, and it was a great experience hearing directly from our ratepayers. The conversations were varied. Some were complimentary and supportive. Some, although not many, were not, but most were insightful and productive. I came away from these discussions with an understanding of what we as a governance table are doing right and learning where there are areas of concern and where we can improve. The pandemic offered us the ability to communicate differently with our residents. And as I have said many times, I believe that we are far more accessible than we were prior to 2020. That being said, I must acknowledge what I heard a number of times on the campaign trail, and that is our communication and how we not only get our messaging across, but how we are listening to our ratepayers. And while I know that we have improved our communication tenfold, I know that there is still room for improvement. Lisa has already begun to work on a comprehensive communication plan, and I will look forward to rolling that out. I think it is safe to say that in 2023, we will be able to bring back many communication events that we previously hosted. I look forward to the return of the Mayor's Breakfast, to Coffee with the Mayor, and I also think community open houses hosted by a couple of us at a time, perhaps 3 to 4 times a year, would provide opportunity to engage with our residents. We updated our strategic plan in 2020, and it is incumbent on our council to review the plan and ensure it is in keeping with our goals moving forward. I look forward to engaging with council and staff, perhaps halfway through our term, to revisit it. Our Recreation Master Plan is a document that we are all familiar with, and we've had much success in working our way through many of the initiatives in it. And I look forward to the establishment of a new Trails Committee. And I think it is wise, though, to go through the same sort of exercise that we did last term with our strategic plan, with the Recreation Master Plan. And I know that Paul has already begun to think about how that exercise will be conducted. As Lucan Biddulph grows, so does our community economic development opportunities. We have a dedicated EDO now. We've had a dedicated EDO now for a couple years. And I would encourage the CEDC to go through a strategic plan process in partnership with council to ensure that we are a community that is innovative and inviting when it comes to economic development. We have a broad landscape. And while we know that Lucan Biddulph is a great place to live, we want to make sure that small businesses from many sectors know that Lucan Biddulph is a thriving economy. I know that as councillors, you all have your own initiatives and that you would like to bring forward during this term. And I look forward to working with you to ensure that your projects and community improvements find a way to get developed and put to action. Lucan Biddulph continues to be a community that people want to be part of. The future really is bright. I am excited for the next 4 years, as I know all of you are. Lucan Biddulph is fortunate to have the municipal staff that we do. It cannot go unmentioned that our staff are the ones that do the heavy lifting. On behalf of this council, I want to thank all of them in all departments. It is not easy to be a municipal front-facing employee, but without reservation, I know that our staff works always for the best interest of Lucan Biddulph. And to my fellow councillors, thank you for your service. I look ahead with anticipation to the work that we will accomplish. The next 4 years will be different than the last 4, but I anticipate they will be as challenging, as fulfilling, and as successful. Always keep in mind the oath that we just took, to truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of your knowledge and ability. Keeping that as your guiding principle will ensure that Lucan Biddulph is served with honesty, openness, and always with the best interest of community. So now there's no reason but to continue to get to work. And now pull up the agenda. So one of the great things we get to do tonight, and it's so wonderful to look out in the gallery and actually have people here. It's really a thrill to have an audience with us tonight. But we get to acknowledge one of our employees, Joe Dewan, our road supervisor, has been in the municipality for 45 years. And it's a fun fact because it's actually the actual date, the work anniversary. 45 years ago, this was your first day of work, if I'm correct, right, Joe? It is not often that a municipality gets to recognize a long service employee for 45 years. I know in speaking to my colleagues across the county, we all are very proud of the employees that we have, and you know, so many of them serve their communities for a long time. But I can't think of another, my colleagues couldn't think of employees on their staff that had been an employee as long as you have. Joe, you are well known across the community in Lucan, the village of Lucan, and across Biddulph. Our roads are safer because of you. There's no question about that. We are better served for the work that you do for our community. So it's really an honor to be able to congratulate you tonight. At this time, I'm going to ask Jeff to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep this a little bit short. We've got other things to say as well. Joe, you've worked for the municipality for 45 years. That is a special accomplishment. It's not easy. I know I've done it a bit myself. Early mornings, long days, emergency calls, they're all part of the deal. You can never make everyone happy. You just hope you make some happy. And to excel at this job, you have to care. And Joe, you do that. You take it to heart. Congratulations and my respect to you, not on the 45 years, but more importantly, on how you've completed those 45 years. The success that you've had is a great accomplishment. My hat's off to you. I look forward to working with you and keep this streak going for as long as you want. Thanks, Joe. Good job.
Okay, and then I think Ron's got a few words.
So I think in this room, I've worked with Joe the longest, actually. That says something all by itself. And to make things more interesting, I actually grew up literally, how far from your house, Joe? There you go. So very, very close to Joe's house. So it's been 45 years, and I think you'd agree, Joe, it has gone by quickly, very quickly. And it's a testament to your ability. I think Joe's happiest when he's in the grader or plowing snow. And that's we've said that many, many times. I think the funniest story I ever heard was when, Joe, I think you broke your leg just after we got the new grader. your arm. So Steve McCauley was the public works manager at the time, and the very next day, Steve pulls in and Joe's truck is there, and he's thinking, well, why would Joe be here? He can't run the grader. So he goes into the shop. Here's Joe sitting behind the wheel of the new grader with his face down. He was so disappointed, a brand new toy, and he can't drive it. And that was, but that's the kind of person Joe is. He loves to work, and that's, you do a fantastic job for us, Joe. And we hope that continues for quite some time, as long as you want to be here. So thank you.
I'll ask you to come up, Joe, because we've got a small presentation, but certainly I also, as you're making your way up, I do want to thank Joanne and your family. Because as Jeff said, it's not easy. The hours are crazy. And you couldn't have done it without the support of your family. So we thank you for lending him to us. And he couldn't do this without your support.
I don't have to put here. Yeah, please. I don't have to push the button.
No, just talk right into it.
So good evening, Mayor, Council, family, staff, current and past. I want to thank you for the recognition here tonight at the council meeting. Although 45 years seems like a long time, it's flowing by. Grading, snow plowing, building roads, drains, etc. Working and residing in the township has been a pleasure. I look forward to the years to come. And I want to thank everyone for coming here tonight and all the kind words. It really feels good. Thank you very much. Thank you. One more thing, I really want to thank the grandchildren for coming. Scott, Derek, he couldn't make it. Kate and James, Brad, and Nicole. Thank you very much. I won't forget.
We just want to get a couple pictures.
Yep.
We'll get a picture with you and council, and then with you and your family.
Okay,
We'll just do it right up here.
okay.
Yeah. And the whole family, want to get the whole family in? No, exactly. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Now, you're all welcome to stay. It's not a long meeting, but certainly we understand.
Very exciting.
It's good.
Hey, Joe.
If every meeting could start like that, it was awesome.
My favorite one.
I know, exactly. That was great. Okay, so right into the meeting. I guess I do have to ask, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Counselor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have one disclosure of pecuniary interest on this agenda. It's for item 13.1A, the Fire Services Master Plan Request for Proposals. Just noting that Lucan Biddulph's fire services does extend into the eastern portion of North Middlesex, and my employer is the municipality of North Middlesex, and I have filed the appropriate paperwork with the clerk.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we'll move right into the adoption of the minutes. We have the minutes from the November 1st meeting in front of us. And if nothing has to be amended, or if there weren't any corrections to be made, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those minutes as circulated. Counselor Westman and Counselor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. Business arising from the minutes. Nothing has been added. I didn't know if we wanted to speak to any of those items. Or if council wanted anything added to it from the last set of minutes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
If I may, Madam Mayor, the affordable and attainable housing, we had discussed that during our agenda meeting. And that, I wonder whether it's appropriate to keep that on here or whether we should take that off. The housing, social housing is really at the upper tier level, at the county level. So with council's permission, I will take that off. And I do believe council is aware of the initiatives on the part of county council as well. So it would be appropriate to remove that from the list.
If council's okay with that, we don't need a motion to remove those,
No.
do we? No?
No, Madam Mayor, no,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Was there any other discussion on the business arising? Then we'll move on to the correspondence. And there was not as many items as we've received in the past, but the one letter that has been flagged by staff for discussion was the letter from the Minister of Finance with regards to our OMPF funding. And Catherine, did you want to speak to this? Sure.
So that's our funding announcement that for 2023. It has increased, so that's good news, by about $33,000 over last year. I think it's roughly $10 a increase per household. So we have that going forward. It's not tied to any particular use. It's to help fund their tax base. So it's good news.
It is good news. It is. Thank you, Catherine. Any questions on that? Okay. And then the balance of correspondence, there was only 5 other items received. I didn't know if council wanted to speak to any of those. Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one thing I noticed on one of the AMO watch files, the November 10th. I saw there's some grant programs around accessibility called the Enabling Change grants. And through you to staff, just wondering if we're looking at any grant opportunities through there for accessibility.
I'm looking at Lisa, but she's looking at me, so I'll take a stab at this one. We haven't, our accessibility coordinator is at the county level. So we can maybe touch base with the county accessibility coordinator to see if there's any opportunities with this funding.
Okay, that would be good to follow up on that one. If nobody else had any items to discuss on the correspondence list, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the correspondence items for information purposes, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And those are carried. On to committee reports. Blue Water, I didn't, if there was a last meeting, nothing, no. The CEDC has the draft minutes from the June meeting and the November 9th meeting. Of course, these haven't been adopted yet by the CEDC, but they are there for your information. And the CEDC obviously did meet last week. Nothing from Lake Huron. I can say that Lake Huron won't meet now until January when the new board will be installed. Fire boards met last week. And the minutes will be in the next council package. Anything from ABC and Upper Thames, Parks and Recreation? Nothing. So moving on to staff reports, Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first report is with regards to the fire services master plan. The purpose of the report is to obviously provide a draft of the request for proposal for the fire services master plan for council's consideration. We started talking about this quite some time ago. We actually had a draft of the RFP presented to both fire boards at last week's meeting, and both fire boards endorsed it and recommended to Lucan Biddulph Council to issue the RFP. So I don't know if anybody has any questions with regards to this, but the timing, I intentionally left some of the dates. We're gonna have to figure out the dates. One of the reasons why I haven't put any dates in there is I would like to talk to a couple of the people who we expect to be able to get an RFP from. And with Christmas coming up, I want to make sure that we give enough time so that we get a good number of proposals, and that would give a lot of choice to council. So those dates are to be determined, but if council's comfortable, staff can sort of figure out the timing and bring that forward.
Deputy Mayor Manders.
Just, and then what did, from previous municipalities, I'm just curious, like, the length of time roughly typically for something like this, is it a year, 2 years, 6 months? I mean, I guess I just was curious. Like,
I would estimate a minimum 6 months. Probably you're looking at the better part of a year by the
Gotcha.
time the full report gets.
which you'll learn more from the RFP anyways. And then does our partners there in Perth pay the portion of that then? Would they pay?
This is the Township of Lucan Biddulph's
Okay.
Fire Services Master Plan. So the entire cost is borne by Lucan Biddulph.
By Lucan Biddulph, but it encompasses all of Lucan Biddulph, obviously. Gotcha.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So is their expectations, will they be doing one? Do you know? But have you talked to that?
We did ask at the meeting, and I think initially, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Westman and Mayor Kathy, I believe they initially wanted to do one, but I think they've got their own budget issues that they're trying to struggle with, and this is not sort of the
priority?
highest on their priority list.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion on that? Councillor Regan.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Ron, I'm just wondering, can we do one without the other? Like, can we do one in Lucan, like the Lucan Biddulph Fire Department and the Biddulph Lantry? Can you do one without the other? Just asking.
If I may, Madam Mayor, so Fire Services Master Plan looks at Lucan Biddulph as a whole.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so it's gonna try and determine if we had a blank slate and there was no fire departments and we were just initiating, how would that look for us? And that's what they will come to us and recommend.
All right.
So,
Okay.
and there's gonna be, I expect anyway, there will be many parts to this report. So they may come up with, this is the ideal situation, but here's where you are now. And how do we get from here to there? And how do we, is it an implementation schedule? But there's a number of variables that would go into this report.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ron. I understand a little better. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
if you read into the RFP, it does speak to, the consultant engaging with all the stakeholders. So there will be discussions with both boards. So, you can take from that the consultant will be well aware of the services that the Biddulph Blanchard Fire Department offers, and the fact that their services go beyond our borders. So they'll have an understanding of that piece of the puzzle. Okay. Any other questions on that? I just sure, because at the Biddulph Blanchard Fire Board meeting, the recommendation or it was brought up by a board member to include a map of our boundaries, because we do also include some of North Mid. So I just want to make sure that we don't forget to include that map in the document.
No, correct. A map will be shown, and it actually will show the portion of North Middlesex that the Lucan Biddulph Department covers, and it'll also show the portion of Perth South that Biddulph Blanchard covers.
All right, if there are no more questions or comments on that, we do have a motion in front of us that report number CAO-17-2022 be received for information, and that council direct staff to issue the RFP as presented. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The second one is the sort of a bit of a synopsis on the recent Bill 23. And that one had a number of changes to various pieces of legislation, everything from the Planning Act to development charges to what kind of dealings or what dealings municipalities cannot have with the Conservation Authority. So there's a number of items in there. There's a number of items that obviously cause us great concern. And for my report, I kind of stuck to what was pertinent to Lucan Biddulph. I'm going to kind of leave the planning portion of it to the county planner. He's obviously dealing with it at a very high level. So when it comes to who can appeal planning decisions and things like that, I'll let the upper tiers kind of look after that portion of the bill. I think where it comes and impacts us the greatest is the development charges impact. And I try and explain that in the draft letter that I've drafted there. And I read it again just before the meeting, and there's still a few tweaks to words I want to make in there. So, but that sort of gives you the gist of what our official response letter will be. The deadline for those remarks to go back to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the province is the 17th, which is Thursday. So with council's approval, we'll make those final changes and send it out tomorrow, so they have it with a day to spare. But it does, the letter, I hope, explains the impact to a municipality such as Lucan Biddulph and what that means in terms of dollars. We use the example of 50 homes per year, which is a conservative number considering what our growth has been for the last 4 or 5 years. So based on those numbers and assuming our development charges rises to a level of 25,000, again, that could be a conservative number. We don't know that yet. But based on a $25,000 development charge and 50 homes per year, the fact that this piece of legislation limits us to only charging 80% of the increase of that 25,000 in year one, we can charge 85% in year 2, 90% in year 3, 95% in year 4, and then finally 100% in year 5. That, based on 50 homes a year, will cost Lucan Biddulph I think my report said $625,000, which, to somebody reading this from Toronto or a bigger municipality, that may not seem like a lot. But when we put it in terms of our budget, that's a 12.5% increase in taxes. And that is not going to be, we cannot collect that. So that's a big hole that needs to be filled from someone. So the question is, who's going to fill it? If the province is going to come back and say, well, okay, because we've done this to you, we'll give you a grant to offset that. We certainly haven't heard that yet. So maybe that's coming. We don't know, but that is the direct impact to Lucan Biddulph at this point in time. So I tried to get that onto a piece of paper so that they can understand it in real terms. So hopefully they'll get that. I've asked to meet with them so we can further explain our position. And then the second part was the relationship that we have with our conservation authorities right now. Right now, when we have a planning application, it's either a $200 or a $250 charge. That payment goes directly to the conservation authority for them to submit comments on behalf of, stormwater management and all these other things that we need comments on, that council requires comments on in order to make an informed decision. If like Bill 23 is suggesting that is no longer going to be allowed, we are going to be barred from being able to do that with the conservation authorities. Council still needs that information or those comments. So if we now have to go, instead of going to our partners, the conservation authorities, if we have to go to an outside consultant, I think we all know you're not going to get a consultant's report for $200 or $250, not to mention the timing on the whole thing. So it's going to cost somebody more, probably the applicant, because I don't think the rest of the taxpayers or council is going to want to spread that cost over to the taxpayer. So that'll become a cost for the applicant to cover. And again, it makes no sense, and it's a head scratcher for us because we don't understand what's going on here. There may be some problems with conservation authorities in different areas, but our suggestion to the province is that put it at the discretion of the municipality. If we don't get along with our conservation authority, then it's up to the municipality to go somewhere else and retain a consultant. But by removing that ability to make our own decisions here, it's a little bit insulting, really, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So I tried to make those comments very straightforward and clear in that letter. And basically what I'm hoping is that council will endorse the letter and instruct staff to send that out on behalf of our municipality. Now, I did have attached to the report was the actual file, the PowerPoint presentation from the county, and in discussing it with the deputy clerk, I really thought that was important to have in there, and I won't go through each slide, but it is really important information. And I really want to make sure council receive that and sees it, because it deals with all the other various aspects in there as far as planning issues and changes go. And it's very important, and the county is doing good work with that, and they will be communicating that to the province as well. So I think that's all I have to say.
I know there is a lot to unpack with this bill. There's no question. Questions or comments on what Ron has presented and what's in front of you? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just really briefly, just thanks Ron and staff for preparing the letter. I like how it's specific to our municipality and it talks about our concerns. Because there's obviously widespread opposition to this Bill 23, and I'm glad that we make this specific to us so that all the different voices can be heard. I'm sure other municipalities will hit on it more generically, how it may be impacting them, but I really like how it's specific to our situation, and it speaks to how this is going to impact us here in Lucan Biddulph, because it does impact everyone a little bit differently, and we feel the impacts a lot. So I like the letter for that reason. I don't have any comments or objections to it, and I'll fully endorse that we get this sent as soon as possible so it's received before that deadline. Thank you.
Thanks, Jaden. Any other comments? Councillor Regan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Ron, sorry, I just reading the very last sentence said we'd be pleased to meet with you or your staff. And is there an opportunity to push for a meeting? The letter, I like this. I agree with Councillor Hodgins. I'm just wondering, is there a way of pushing this and just making sure that they get the point by requesting a meeting, or is that just something that's not realistic?
Well, I think we have a few opportunities. Number one, the letter formally requests a meeting. We're also going to be submitting a request for meeting during the Good Roads and Roma. I don't think Good Roads is out yet. So that's another opportunity there. But we've also reached out to our MPP Monty McDonald's office to request a meeting specifically to discuss all the parts of this and how it impacts us.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, then if there's no other further discussion on the letter, then I would, the motion in front of us is the report CAO 18-2022 regarding Bill 23 be received for information, and the council authorized staff to forward to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honorable Steve Clark, the attached letter. A mover and a seconder for that, Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. Did you have anything verbal or anything else, Ron? Okay, Tina? Nothing. Okay, Lisa, you've got a elections update?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, it's a further report from the results of the election. I'm just going to share a screen because there is some interesting data in this that some people may find quite interesting to see. Let me just zoom that here. Where is it? There we go. On the second page, I guess you call it, it does go through residency status, occupant status, which is nothing too exciting on that. Some of the numbers for each voting race is summarized there. You can see across here the percentages for each race, what they were, phone versus internet. But what is interesting when the voting timeframes, if you look at that page, you can see the jump on day one is total was 20%, and then it kind of gets really quiet during the week, and then on your last official election day, you can see the number jump up again. So you can see the peaks and the low, and then it peaks up again at the very end. So that is kind of interesting to see those time slots, voting by time, but that goes through things. But what's interesting to me is when we look at the age range of who's participating in the election, it is interesting to see the percentages of the youth actually engaged in this election. But it's really strong across the board for representation of the different ages. So as an electronic voting procedure, it's nice to see that we still have the good numbers in electronics, via internet or by phone. It's good to see that people are able to manage that system and get their votes in. So I kind of just wanted to highlight maybe the age range, because it is interesting to see those overall numbers, and you look at the 70-year-olds, it's like 64% the voting. So strong showing there. So yeah, I just kind of want to bring forward some interesting stats from the election.
It is amazing the data that they're able to grab, like even just knowing what kind of device you are accessing it from. It's fascinating. Any comments on that data report? Deputy Mayor Manders and then Councillor Regan.
Yeah, I just noticed, obviously we've talked about maybe changing up the wards due to the population and the different areas. And obviously Ward 2 sticks out with 1,700 to Ward 3, 1,150. I guess just a comment, would we ever want to look at moving, whether it be Corsi Line and up by the Malibu and things that are rural in that area, and 2, make it more rural right into Ward 3, potentially, if a few hundred people or also too, I don't know if there's any interest. There's certainly been some municipalities that have looked at going with 4 wards and not having a deputy mayor also. Obviously, I think talking about it in 3 years isn't good. I think, I don't know if it's a notice of motion. We've talked about it. I think there's too big of a difference in Ward 2 and 3. And I just think maybe taking some of the rural area out of 2 and putting it to Ward 3, it might be a couple hundred people, but a comment I wanted to make, or staff and council's happy with it, but I want to make that comment. I don't know where the conversation goes. So.
Lise.
Yeah, absolutely, Deputy Mayor. We can look at the projections as well, like once we gather those subdivision data, because obviously in the next couple of years, we expect some more growth in these wards as well. So I think we can do definitely some projections of what we see, where the growth is going to be, and kind of remap potential scenarios. Absolutely, in the new year.
Counselor Westman.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that too. I mean, it kind of hits home when you see the numbers. There is potentially a lot of growth going to happen in Ward 2, and a little bit of growth in Ward 3, but not enough to really offset it. So, sorry, what?
I was gonna say Timber Ridge.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But
That would be in Ward 3.
now how much would that be? Do you think would that be a
It's-
couple hundred?
How many, was it 100 homes? 100 and, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
And that's one thing you have to think about too, is you can't just look for the next 4 years. You've
No.
got to look long-term. And like the mayor said, that was a huge, that's 200 acres worth of growth
true.
there. So
yeah.
that will have an impact. So yeah, who knows when that'll happen? But you don't want to move it this time and then have to move it again. You really have to look long-term as to
Sure.
what's going to happen.
I think I'd be in support of looking at adding some of that rural area to Ward 3 as well. Just to kind of balance things out. Ward 3 is predominantly an agricultural ward anyway. So I don't think it'd be out of line to add that. So,
Well, I'm sure that, this is all very preliminary and there's still more data to come, but I think the point, and I think staff knows that we can't wait until 2025, that we have to have those discussions in 2023 and 2024. Do we need a motion to accept that for information? Okay. All right, moving on then. Finance, anything, Catherine? No. Public Works, anything, Jeff?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have just a verbal update on a few items. I'll start with the water. The drinking water annual audit was completed by SAI Global. Good to announce there was no compliancy issues. So everything's fine. It came up with no issues. The audit is done every year to ensure that our water system meets the requirements of the MCEP. Next update, there is going to be a public meeting on water rates on December 3rd at the next council meeting. I will present a report on the water and wastewater rates for 2023 at that time. Wastewater update, Renee with Aqua will be conducting presentations to grade 7 and 8 at our local schools on what can and cannot be flushed through the sanitary system. So that's actually really good news. We've been wanting to do that for a couple of years now. So that's been scheduled. I believe it's the 7th and 8th of December, so it's coming up. The Class EA study is almost complete. BM Ross will be presenting the study to council in December or early January. So that's good news. On the transportation side of things, the construction's almost complete on Saintsbury and Alice. The 2023 work will include the final lift of pavement and some lawn restoration on Alice. So basically, that projects are being tidied up in the next couple of weeks. So it's good. Pavement, curb, sidewalk basically are done on all the streets there. So it's come along. The Green Yard Waste Program will wind down at the end of November. The material that we've taken in is we've taken in quite a lot. So I will update council in the new year on the volumes, because we've seen a lot of material come through. So council can look for those numbers in the new year. And then finally, just an update, Robin Gilham will be doing the snow maintenance in Granton again this year. Robin has decided that he is okay doing it one more year and did put in a quote. So and he in the past has done an excellent job there. Having said that, though, I think it would be probably a good idea to look at in the summertime, looking at what's going on with Granton, so. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. That is good news about the snow in Granton, that's for sure. Any questions for Jeff? Okay, thanks, Jeff. Parks and Rec, Paul?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Just some quick verbal updates this evening. Just a reminder, the GoVax bus will be here in the municipal parking lot on November 26th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. They do offer the Pfizer bivalent, monovalent, and pediatric doses. So just mark that in your calendars. Anyone who is in need or needs, if any residents reach out inquiring about that, and you can always send them my way for any questions.
November 26th?
November 26th. As well, just a note to council, we had a very successful craft show last weekend. There was a slight drop in attendance, but some of that is attributed to, sickness, and, some people still have some COVID hesitancy, but it was still quite successful. So I think, it's great to show that we can still do events like that with COVID as it's been, and with the construction that's going on. So it was great to have that back again. And just the quick, we've done measures at the soccer field. Once again, just to remind everyone, we've got the fencing up. We have signs up. We have road barriers up to hopefully protect our investment. So anyone from the community watching, please remind everyone to stay off. They're under development. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Just your team did a great job with the craft show. I want to specifically thank Abby for all the work that she put into it. I think we have to return at some point, and I don't think anybody should be any disappointed if there was a drop in attendance. Certainly, I walked through on Sunday. I spoke to a number of the artisans, and they were happy with being there and being back. And I have every confidence that as each year returns, we'll get the numbers back up. But just if you can send Abby on behalf of council a big, huge thanks and congratulations. And then, of course, to the rest of the team at the community center, because it's no small event.
Absolutely.
Okay, Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Paul, just a quick question. With respect to the GoVax bus on November 26th, I have two questions. The first one, is an appointment required, or is that just drop in? And the second question is, are we advertising that on social media or through other platforms to the public?
Yes, we've been sharing their advertisements, and we'll continue to do so as well. There's no appointment required. It's drop in. As we do know, there has been a less of an uptick in this batch of vaccine. So, there's a lot more availability. So make sure everyone who wants the shot, don't be hesitant. You can show up and you won't be waiting for a long time, hopefully.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Paul? Okay, thanks, Paul. Lisa, if you have anything? Okay, thanks. Councillor comments. Councillor Westman.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, in Granton, we held our Remembrance Day service at the cenotaph, and I think we had probably the biggest turnout we've had in many years. It was really well attended and well supported. And I got to say that Mayor Kathy shared a photo with me that was taken by a local resident who has since been named as Andrew Schuler. And it honestly, I tell you, it moved me. It was a black and white photo of the cenotaph casting a shadow on the fence. And I mean, it inspired a lot of thought and retrospect. And we shared it around, Mayor Kathy and myself shared it around, and it was shared through the township Facebook page and so on. And I got to say, there's some really truly talented people in our community, and that photo has touched a lot of lives. So it was pretty nice, and appreciate it very much.
I know it is really stunning. I don't know if I can put you on the spot, Lisa. I don't know whether, can you pull that picture up quickly at all? I don't know whether you can do it. If not, I mean, we can share it offline, but. Okay, yeah, don't worry about it. I should have had that, I should have had that lined up, but we'll show you the picture because it really is stunning. Yeah, yeah. Any other counselor comments? Nothing? Okay. No changes to budget. Any notices of motion on our first meeting of our new term? So we'll move right into the motions and accounts, and we do have an accounts paid motion. So the motion in front of us is that the Council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph receive the attached accounts as paid for information as follows, and that's for October 2022 for $2,986,011.18. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Counselor Regan and Counselor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. And then we have one bylaw in front of us, and that is bylaw 62-2022. And that is the confirming bylaw. Motion in front of us is that if no one cares to speak to bylaw 62-2022 on its first, second, and third reading, that it be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, and read a third time and passed. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Counselor Westman and Counselor Regan. All in favor? That's carried. Resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:31 PM. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Counselor West.